have to cook dinner tomorrow night for her saying all those nice things about me. My name is Vance, and I'm an alcoholic who has struggled with pornography, sex addiction, codependency, and depression. Hey guys, I was exposed to some terrible hurts that affected me as a young adult and ultimately led the way to my self-destructive path. The pain was unbearable as I dealt with the loss of my mom and uncle due to suicide. I also lost 2 younger brothers. My mom attempted suicide many times and finally succeeded when I was 21. After each attempt, she would promise me she would never do it again. One last attempt, and she succeeded. She died from carbon monoxide poisoning. She was in the garage with a car running, and my bedroom was just behind the adjoining wall. The smell of the car's exhaust woke me up. I could have died in my sleep had I not woken up. I remember waking up and being disoriented. I went looking for her and found her in the garage. She died in my arms. I can't put into words what that experience felt like. It was this tragedy that began a long road of me believing the lie that any woman close to me could not be trusted and that they would eventually leave me. From this mindset came 2 divorces and many unstable relationships. I would always leave a relationship before they could leave me. I would even get into another relationship before one ended to make sure I wasn't alone. I was on a train of self-destruction that I was not even aware of. I was using alcohol and porn to medicate my pain. Lies and selfishness were a daily occurrence when it came to my personal life. I was good at keeping my personal life separate from my business and became a successful businessman. However, my home life was a different story. I was drinking every day and hitting the strip clubs every chance I had. I neglected my family, not only in physical presence, but emotionally as well. I was making excuses for not being around while seeking out other ways to feed my selfishness and numb my pain. I kept bouncing from one relationship to another. I was living in the cycle of insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over and yet expecting a different result. While in one of my many unhealthy relationships, I sought help from an addictions counselor. I told him my relationship wasn't working. The counselor suggested I quit drinking to see if it would make a difference. Apparently it did. She said I was no fun anymore and left. This was the first time I had no relationship lined up, and my counselor still encouraged me not to drink. I would be alone and no alcohol to medicate. I took his advice and I hit my bottom. I was miserable every day after that. My counselor suggested I give an AA meeting a try. At that point, I was willing to try anything to make the hurt go away. I had no idea what to expect in an AA meeting. I walked through the door, and there stood an old drinking buddy from years back. He said, "Hey, buddy, I've been expecting you. I saved you a seat." I was so relieved just not to be alone. He became my sponsor from day one. Most people say their sponsor walked them through the steps. I actually feel like my sponsor carried me through the steps. We went to a meeting together every night for almost a year. We took meetings in the halfway houses, detox centers. All these meetings helped me learn about how mind-altering substances can control and destroy lives. My mom and uncle were example of this very thing. For many years, I neglected my family due to my addiction. Even during the beginning of my recovery, I still did not put my family first. I learned that I needed to be in meetings every night, which meant I was not available to my children often. What I came to understand was that everything I put before my recovery, I stood to lose. My recovery had to come first. If I wasn't sober, I would lose my kids, my business, and my life. That was a road I was not willing to go down. I did what I had to do to get and keep my sobriety. Once I was sober and my emotional healing, my sons began the healing process. It wasn't easy or fast, but worth every hour gave to my recovery, worth every tear I shed, worth all I had given up to now be on a road of reconciliation with them. A few years back, I had a conversation with one of my sons that was very healing. He shared with me that during my addiction and recovery, we had lost a lot of time being together. I was so proud of him for being able to share with me how he felt. He took a big risk sharing his heart with me. Prior to my recovery, I would have been defensive and probably making excuses for what I did or didn't do. Instead, I was able to listen and receive what he was saying. In my head, I had already knew what he was saying was true, but it was a chance for me to validate what he was feeling. I made a lot of friends in my recovery journey. When I am in self-pity, they tell me to get my head out of my you-know-what. I truly benefit from those that love me where I am, but not willing to leave me where I am. It's a I problem, but a we solution. I started doing some counseling because even though I was sober, something was missing. In one session, the counselor asked me what I thought about God. I was sitting there with my eyes closed and said, I know God had my back. He said, well, why don't you turn around and see him? In that moment, everything changed for me. I knew that God was with me. I came to believe in that moment that God was now beside me, and that I do believe that without him, facing all the pain and suffering I caused and received, that there would have been a high chance of me relapsing. I am so grateful that in the lowest of lows, I was never alone. He loves me despite what I have done. I also joined a prayer group. This helped me navigate the pain of my mom's suicide. During one of the prayer sessions, I didn't actually hear the voice of God. However, there's no doubt in my mind that God himself helped me understand that he did not take my mom. He let her go. She was in so much pain and could no longer do it on her own. I came to a place of understanding that God was always next to her, but she just never would reach out. This had a huge impact on me. It made me realize I had a part in my relationship with God. My relationship with him is not one-sided. I need to reach out to him. Shortly after that, I joined an adult child support group ran by an addictions counselor. In this group, I learned to journal on my character defects each day. The journaling taught me how to ask God what to do about negative behaviors. I learned that I really wasn't aware of some things I did throughout the day. I needed to spend the time going through the process of taking daily moral inventory. Each night, I followed by journaling about them. During this practice daily for several years has helped me be aware of these behaviors. Most time, I am able to spot them more quickly and choose another path. I've learned that what I'm not aware of, I cannot change. I believe as I work my program and reach out to God, I grow in my discernment with him. This is an example of how God confirmed to me that I really knew but was struggling to do. I started my business in 1982 with an old '69 Chevy van. The business was my baby that I had nurtured for 40 years. A few years back, I began to feel the pull to retire. My mind was flooded with thoughts like, who am I if not a business owner? What will I do to fill the void? How do I pass my business to my family but not be in control of it? How do I ultimately let go? What I came to realize was that I allowed my identity to be all about who I was in my business. So really the question I was struggling with was, who was I? It wasn't easy, however. I knew it was time to turn it over, yet all these unanswered questions relating to my identity. I'm grateful that God provided me with a big undertaking as I exited one responsibility and got another. We finished our home in 2021. Creating something new for our family has helped redefine my purpose. This is a project that me and Christine have worked on together, dreaming and planning our future. This has kept me occupied with plenty of projects to do. Also, it gives me time to focus on my program. To focus on other projects and need to have a course correction to remember that my relationship comes before my projects. I'm still working on becoming better at this. I have to remember it's all about the progress, not the perfection. Early last year, my abandonment and rejection issues surfaced. I was not looking for another relationship. God had sent Christine to me, and I had no intentions of leaving her. So my fear was her leaving me. I isolated and focused on my time on the property. I'm sure she felt rejected and responded likewise. What's going on? I struggled with that for 7 months. I knew I put her through a rough time. I have been tested by the devil many times, and I guess he thought I was due. I put on God's armor and went to work. I knew I had to change the way I think. Through prayer, talking to my sponsor, support groups, I broke through the lie. I've heard it said that if you learn to discipline yourself by God's word, other people won't have to. I'm continually trying to grow in my emotional connection with my wife. I've tried to become more aware of my emotions and what triggers me in my response to them. We have now set boundaries for my work and our time together. I have a few triggers that send me into a bad place, getting tired and getting hungry. I need to be proactive in this area and have to constantly be aware of my state of mind. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God. When I worked step 11 and asked God for his knowledge, for his will for me, he has shown me my purpose. He asked me to stay involved in my recovery work and support groups. He also has me helping others by being willing to sponsor and taking others through the steps like my sponsor took me. I'd like to share what I think is one of the most cherished gifts from this program. And that's given me the ability to break the generational curse of addiction that has followed my family for generations. I can be vigilant about their behavior, share with them where I was and where I am now, and hopefully they will make the right choices at the right time. I would like to close with a poem that reminds me to give every part of me to God. As children break their broken toys with tears for us to mend, I brought my broken dreams to God because he was my friend. But then instead of leaving them for God to work on alone, I hung around and tried to help with ways that were my own. I snatched my dream back from God and cried, "How could you be so slow?" "My child," he said, "what could I do? You never did let go." I am so grateful that recovery has taught me a new, healthy way to let go. Thanks for letting me share.
All right, thank you, Vance.